and welcome to this panel discussion today. So just to introduce everybody for you, we have Lance Hill, who is the Managing Director of 8 Days a Week Print Solutions. And they have long ago really embraced this idea of being a solutions provider to their customers and to moving from what I like to call a quote and hope situation to really trying to understand their customers' pain points, how they can develop a collaborative partnership with them and really solve their end problems and help them grow their businesses. Next we have Sarah Kilcoyne from Route 1 Print, which is a major trade print house here in the UK. And their value proposition really to their customers is enabling them to focus on having those type of conversations, those value conversations with their customers, so that they can compete on pennies per sheet for them. They have a very impressive factory and they can gang everything up and really allow their customers to push commoditized items to them, and they can focus on that value. We also have Mike Roberts from PMG Print Management, which is a really well-established agency here in the UK. And they live and breathe consultancy with their customers. For many, many years, they have focused on getting under the skin of their customers, really understanding what are the end goals that they have, and then providing them with a suite of solutions to enable them to be solved. And finally, we have Tony Kenton from ITIQ and Associates. And Tony has been a consultant in the print industry for many years. He comes from a long lineage of printers, and he has also been a council member of the British Association of Print and Communication. So welcome to you all. And really, my first question goes to you, Lance. What do you think it really means to collaborate with a customer, and why do you think it is fundamental to printers today growing their business?
I think for me, it's about understanding your customer's business, not just the people you're dealing with, but the people as a whole, the culture, the challenges they've got, their competitors, their market, what the opportunities are. And it's about building the relationship and the trust. It's hard enough, I think in any climate, certainly in the current climate, to win new business. But once you've got customers, it's about how you set to grow them, how you deliver that added value piece, how you get on a journey together and really become a go-to partner for them. And I think sometimes people are actually frightened to challenge their customers, but I say don't be frightened. Set some challenges to your customers, really understand their market, and say what is keeping them awake at night. It's a bit of a cliche there, but what are their challenges, and actually do a bit more digging and understand more about them individually, and then from that you get trust and they come back to you. And I think people don't like moving suppliers nowadays. I think it's harder to go and find a partner. I think once you've got that trust and that relationship in place, then you become the go-to.
Tony, I mean, this is you live and breathe this stuff every day. What's your take on that question? So again, what do you think it really means to collaborate with a customer?
Just going back one step, I mean, I agree with everything Lance said there. We've been doing being solution providers. I was a bit worried about, using the term solution providers is a bit like gap analysis and all these other things, is that sometimes what we do gets lost in the terminology. The reality is just about building up relationships. But if you just looking on a very positive side from a solution provider, I want to just touch base with that aspect of about solving problems. If you guys consider where we are today in terms of not quite out of the COVID lockdown, but I reckon that the majority of businesses, is if you ask them, reckon they've probably got more problems now than they've ever had in a generation or even 2 generations perhaps. And as a solution provider, if our job is about solving problems, we've got the biggest opportunity now than there's ever existed in the last probably 70 or 80 years. So the thing is understanding the client and getting to sort of get a feel for what their problems are. And as I say, then try to solve their problems, not to sell them something. And I think that's the big difference between printers and solution providers. Printers often get mixed up in the sense that they are just using solution providing as a sprat to catch a mackerel, because once they start talking to them, in their head, what they're really thinking is I wonder how I can sell and print. they're not thinking, how can I solve their solution? And that's the real key aspect to this, is actually looking at how we can help the clients get to where they want to get to, understanding them, because what they say isn't always what they want either. So it is about building up that relationship, that trust. But as an example, I reckon from a solution providing point of view, the biggest issue today is how companies and firms and businesses in the UK are going to regain the revenue they've lost during the lockdown. So as a solution provider, I'll be able to help them get back their revenue at twice the speed than if they didn't work with me.
Fantastic.
So that's the solution I'm providing.
Now, Sarah, over to you on this one, because I know this is something that Route 1 Print feels really passionate about. You are in the job of selling print for a living. That is what you do. So what's your take on all of this? Is it all just blue sky thinking, or does this idea of collaborating with the customer to help them grow an important one, and do you do it at Route 1 Print?
Yeah, it's something that we really focus on, and a lot of the account management team have that as part of their everyday conversations with their clients. What you've got to think about us as well is that we are selling to resellers, so we are selling to people who have another customer as well. There's quite a lot more to the chain than just selling to the end user. And for that reason, if our clients don't understand how to sell and they don't understand what we're doing, which most of them don't, it's not their job to understand the printing process. It's their job to sell print to their client. It's about us all being able to fulfill that part of the chain correctly, and us doing whatever possible to help our client succeed. Inevitably, if our client doesn't succeed and isn't successful, we aren't going to be successful, because our revenue and the work that comes through the factory depends on our clients selling. They almost become agents of ours. And we want them to feel like our factory is just an extension of their factory, enabling them to increase their product range, increase their capacity through us, really, and feeling like that they've got the ability to do that. Collaborating with us on a number of different levels, so not just in terms of the print production, but having the confidence to know that we're going to do the job correctly, having the confidence to know that the website's going to work when it should be working, and they can get instant prices from for their client. I think there's a lot of different layers to the process for our clients, because they are a supplier, but also a customer.
Yeah.
It's a difficult balance, I think. And we need to do everything that we can do to make it easier for them being the customer.
Mike, one of the things that PMG prides itself on is, as you've said a few times to me before, is PMG being peoply people. And I think that feeds well into this question about, collaborating with your customers to help them grow. So what's your experience at PMG?
Well, I think it's quite straightforward. Maybe being northern helps, I don't know, but be honest, be as transparent as you can. And the position that PMG enjoys, or I believe enjoys as an independent print management business, is that we are independent. So our advice we always give, or our advice we can share with clients and prospects, there isn't an agenda to fill a particular factory. It's about what the client needs. So whether it's solution A, solution B, solution C. Also, you mentioned earlier about challenging the customer. We love to challenge the customer, providing that we think that they'll listen to us, because we challenge them. Why do you do that? Why haven't you considered this? And just try and help educate them.
Moving on to the next subject for our panel discussion. We are all fiercely proud and protective of the print industry. Indeed, two of you are well-established printers. But why, as the panel title suggests, do you think it's not enough to just be a printer in the eyes of print buyers, such as marketers, brand managers, and procurement officers anymore? So I think maybe to start off, Mike, can I go to you with this one?
I think it's probably around the understanding of print and also the value of print. And if you just want to sell it as a piece of paper, a piece of print, they don't attach any value to it. But if you then start having bigger discussions around what you could do with data, what you could do with variable imagery, how you can get clever with things, and how that can deliver better value, and a better response or better engagement, then you've got a conversation.
Yeah. And Tony, what about your good self? I know this is also a topic you're particularly interested in. Why isn't enough people to just be a printer anymore, to just be that factory?
Just for the other's sake, is that I'm third generation printer. I've had several printing factories, and it's taken a lot to get printing out of my blood. And so if I sound like I'm going too much in one direction, it's only because I have a natural tendency to lean towards print really heavily, because that's the background. But I do think, and this is the point, is that if you listen to the conversation, it is this idea again of that print is the purpose. That is something that we really have to get. We're not, printers per se. If it's just a case of producing ink on paper, that's not why we're in business. If you look at how printing really became one of the top 3 industries in the world, how it had massive profits, and how most print owners were very rich. The reason for that, it was about supply and demand, and it was the best way to communicate and get over and help people enhance their business. I personally don't think we've changed. It's just the methodology has changed. Whereas print used to be perhaps 80, 90% of that, now print is only 20% of that. So if the thought process is I've got to sell somebody print, it's never going to do it. It's a bit like going to a doctor and them having a surplus of blue and red pills and say, whatever they come in for, I've got to get rid of these blue and red pills. And you can imagine walking into the doctor and the doctor saying, I'm glad you're here. You've got to take 2 of these, one, and you go, but you haven't examined me yet. And you go, yeah, but I've got loads of these pills and I've got to get rid of them. And that's what we're doing in print. Really, we need to understand what the objectives are of the client.
Tony, really good point. Well made. So, Sarah, coming back to you then on that, is that, ironically, what Route 1 Print does is be a fantastic and amazing trade printer and factory so that its customers can do everything that we're talking about. So how do you see this from your perspective, again, on this question of, is it enough for a printer today, a B2C printer, to continue to just be that? Do they have to move on and evolve?
Most of my role involves me meeting a lot of our clients. So we have open days, we go to a lot of industry events. Quite a few of our clients are franchises, so we're often invited to their annual events. And it's a fact that I hear all the time. But your print buyers are changing, so they aren't your retired printers or people that have got much experience in print. There's that common fact that's thrown around at the moment. I don't know where it came from, but that your average print buyer is a 20-something-year-old female with a degree and no experience in print. And I think, that's quite specific, but a lot of the people that we deal with don't necessarily have that experience in print. They don't have the knowledge. So they need us to give them the advice about the product. They don't necessarily know what they need. They know what they think they need, but it's up to us to really get that understanding from them of what are they trying to achieve, where's it going to go, how long are you going to have it there for, and give them options really based on what they're after. Tell them about the benefits of each option, the cost of each option, like the monetary cost of each option as well. A lot of them come to us as well and they've seen something, or somebody else has done something, or they've got something in the hand that they've picked up from somewhere else, and I want this, but they don't know what it is. So we've really got to be more than just giving options on a website. We've got to be there on the other side of the phone so that they can say, oh, this is what I'm wanting to do, I'm wanting to put it outside, it needs to be there for a certain amount of time. So we can say to them, right, well, rather than doing this, that might work short term, but really, after listening to what you're telling me, that the end goal for you is, this is what we need. And I think that's a lot of what is missing at the moment, and why there is a distinct difference at the moment between the commodity printers that we've got, because we're trying very hard to understand what our client wants and listen and ask lots and lots of questions in order to deepen that understanding, so that we're not just selling them a product, we're selling them the correct product, and we're not selling them something for the sake of it. And a lot of the recent training that we've done with the account management team is talking about not just what we do, but what we don't, and understanding that there are going to be times when it goes against everything that you think you know in selling, but that we need to say, that's not a product for us. What you really need is this product. It's not something that we produce, but this is the sort of thing that you need. And then, even going as far as offering recommendations for people that can fulfill that if we know them, rather than just trying to get the money through the door, because it's not beneficial long term, because all you're going to do is burn that client by selling them an expensive product that, like you say, doesn't do what they want. All right, we might not be talking in terms of marketing return, but if we sell them something and they think, oh, I've really paid over the odds for that because really it was excessive, at some point that's going to come to light.
Maybe if I just share with everybody, a real world example of this in practice. Now, back in late 2018, I spent a slightly disastrous and scary 6 months working for a multinational PR company. And because I was pretty much the only person working on that floor that understood anything about the print industry, whenever a print job came up or a client specifically requested a print job, it was, oh, get Brendan, he knows about print, get him sorted out. And one of the clients that we had was running a very, very large annual competition with a large gala dinner at the end for thousands of these competition entrants. And what they wanted was a piece of really highly complex variable print that had each one of their photographs on, variable data on it. It had to look like a Polaroid. Pretty difficult job, really. And I was coming up against a brick wall with trying to find someone who could cope for it with the client's budget. And I remembered that I'd seen Clifton Printers just over the road from the PR company, and wondering, it says established 1965 over the top of the door, and I'm sitting there thinking, how is Clifton Printers still in business on a high street from 1965 when most people of their size and ilk, because they've got a full color Heidelberg in the back there, digital machinery, loads of finishing kits. And I'm thinking this type of printer really, is a rarity these days. How are they still going so strong? When I called them, I figured out why they were going so strong, because as soon as I started explaining this job to the young man that was on the phone, he stopped me and went, do you know what? I'm going to go and get the MD. This is a really important job. I'd like you to have a chat with him. Okay. The MD came on the phone, and the very first question that he asked was, what is this job for? What are you doing it for? Why are you doing it? And he took me through a series of about 15 questions, the end of which led to actually the value of the job being spec'd much more highly, because he'd raised very important points about paper curling with these photographs hanging on trees, and the grammage, and the fact that if they wanted to be Polaroids, they had to have a really good gloss on them, and so on and so forth. Took that back to the client. They were blown away. Clifton's got the job, and it was worth $2,000 more than I'd been given budget for. So that's what I'm talking about as a solution provider. He instantly took that chance and went, new client, difficult, interesting, complex job. And the guys who are answering the phones are also trained to say, don't handle it yourself. As soon as anything like this comes up, come and speak to me. So Lance, moving on to you now. What's your business model, and how does it embrace that concept of being a solutions provider? And what does that actually mean to you?
Print is at the heart of what we do, but we built, I guess, services and solutions around print. If someone says, "Are you a printer?" Yes, we are. When we are absolutely proud of that. But it's not just about that. Are our customers interested in what machinery we've got? No, it's a box that outputs print, but also it's about the other services. So things like email, web to print, design, postage consultancy, improving workflow. The word solution is usually linked to a problem. So it's understanding what is the customer's problem. Let's provide a solution. Okay, that's a loose term, but it's about being bespoke as well. Don't offer them a off the peg solution. Let's build something that's bespoke for that particular customer with that particular need, that particular problem. And also things like speed to market as well. Again, it comes back to things we were talking about earlier, understanding the customer's market, their issues, their challenges, build something that's right for them.
And Tony, you deal with a lot of commercial printers in your day job, consulting with them, working with them, and really making sure that they understand these processes. So what do you think it means for them to be a solutions provider? What does that really mean integrally for a business today that is producing stuff, has a factory, is doing this on the ground? How do they make that transition from being a printer to conceptualizing and becoming a solutions provider, do you think?
There's two specific questions there. The first is, how do you sell to a solution provider? So the printers that I use, primarily, they just have to be really responsive, highly efficient, and help me achieve what I'm trying to do with a client. I always try and include them in on there. So that's as suppliers, because I don't want to get away from the point that we still need the print side of things. Because if I didn't have printers to go to, I'd be in deep trouble, because a lot of what I do in terms of marketing is print related. But in terms of printers becoming a solution provider, that's a totally different animal. And it's not an agency per se. It's not even a design function. It really is built upon the strengths that one has with the clients. And it is a really difficult approach. It's something that's built over a long time. 90% of that business comes in via referral. And invariably, it starts off with, look, if you're in trouble or you need something or you're launching or you speak to Tony, he'll be able to help you. Either that or the crap's going to hit the fan and we need to sort something out, speak to Tony. So people is from a branding point of view, they know why to contact me. And then we look for whatever the solution is we're going to provide. So there's two angles here. It's very difficult for a printer to change the nature of what they do. But I think there's a good, strong combination, and we're hearing it from the other guys as well, where you can combine that, where you can combine production with a solution sales. And it's really getting to understand the client, because if we just boil it down to being a commodity, I don't think anybody wins, including the client, by the way. I think really it's by understanding our knowledge, experience, and what we can do to apply that to resolve the client's issues.
Thanks very much for those points, Tony. They were really well made, and I'm sure people will take a lot away from them. So now moving back nearly to the end of our session, and I'd like to come back to you, Sarah, because it might be obviously a little bit ironic that we're in a panel discussion entitled From Printer to Solutions Provider, and your specialism is very much being a printer. But the key here is that by being a trade printer, you allow other printers to be solutions providers. And that is so important in this market. And it's very much how the market trends here in the UK, for our international visitors listening to this call may be interested in learning about a little bit, is that we are really seeing this consolidation where our SME printers are more and more moving away from competing on those commoditized items that saw, unfortunately, so many unable to continue their businesses because they were just fighting on that price level all the time, and not being able to move through that. So where the market has gone is that those SME printers are now really focusing on spending individual time with those top 20% clients, making sure that, as we've heard on this discussion, they are going through piece by piece with those clients what their end goals are, what their end objectives are, in order to understand better how to help them as a customer, and then producing print that fulfills those goals and objectives. But print is not the product in itself. It's that consultancy, it's that creative conversation. And as a print industry, we're fantastic at that. We have so much immense and arcane technical knowledge that we can bring to those creative conversations. Just to give you a bit of an example, one of our members is called FazePrint, and they have a very large client who, they were on the verge of losing. And actually what they did was sit down with them and say, do you know what? Look, give us one more go on this, and we'd really like to see if we can turn it around for you. What's your overall market objective? What do you want to do? And they explained that they've been losing market traction in several of these key segments, and wanted some sort of really high impact device to help turn it around. So FazePrint, actually, as Tony said in an earlier comment, FazePrint said to them, right, well, we will do this campaign for you, and you will pay us X if you get this much results from the campaign, and you will pay us this much if you get this much results from the campaign. And how about we go about it that way? It's very little risk to you, and we'll just try it out once. Give us one last chance. We've worked together for 20 years. They said, okay, and FazePrint went away, and they actually developed this entirely new direct mail piece that literally, as you pulled it out of an envelope, exploded into a special box. And you could not just explode it into a box, but you could then take that box and reform it. And they engineered that and came up with that solution themselves. The client was amazed, wasn't sure if it was going to work. They rolled it out, and it was the most successful single client campaign they'd ever done. that customer is now very happy. They paid the top amount because they got a huge amount out of that campaign. And now that relationship between the two is now very solid because they don't see FacePrint as a printer anymore. They see them as a solutions provider. So Sarah, what would be really good is if you could take us through a little bit about your business model so that we can understand it and sort of fill in that part of the puzzle. Thanks.
So we are a commodity printer. We print en masse. We gang as much of the product up as we can. We turn it around really quickly. We're quite restrictive on stocks, and we are becoming more flexible as time goes on. But at one point when we started out, we restricted size, we restricted quantity breaks, we restricted stock. So you can get an amazing price for 1,000 A4 flyers, but they've got to be on 150 gram. They've got to be delivered to one address. If you want to start putting 500 to one address, 200 to another, you want to put a label on the box, you want to supply your own stock, it's not something for us. But if you are willing to compromise on part of your spec, you're going to get a really high quality printed product. It's going to turn up really quickly, and you're going to get probably one of the lowest prices in the market for it. You've also got the benefit of calling the team up who can tell you where your order is. We've got really sophisticated MIS that's all been built in-house to the level where if we produce a job, I can tell you which member of the team has laminated it, on which laminator in the factory, at what time. We can see which batch of laminate was used. If you've got an issue with that, is it a batch that's been affected? And all the time we can offer you the most up-to-date information. The same with placing your order. Everything's made to be as easy for the client as possible. So if it suits you to place your order once your pub's closed at 1 a.m, you can log on, get your instant pricing. You can upload your proof then and there. It'll flag if you've got any artwork issues. If not, you can approve your proof online. It'll tell you when your lead time's going to be. You can compare prices for different quantities or double and single-sided. Our customers want us to be as slick as possible and make everything as easy for them, but they also want us to be invisible at the same time. We're almost like a secret for a lot of our clients. They don't want us to be known in the industry. We advertise in all the printed presses, I'm sure you've seen, but we don't bid on any search terms for flyers or business cards because we don't want to come up against our clients. Route One's ethos is not to deal with any sort of direct client. So there's never going to be a situation where our client is competing with us for their end work unless their end work is another reseller. But it's just about making it as easy for the client as possible. And sometimes we stretch to things like integration. So we might have a full end-to-end integration with somebody on the high street that if they've got an order to place through either ours or a print manager's system, they just log on and they say, I've got somebody new starting next week. I need a business card. This is their name and this is the number. The system will generate their artwork. The pricing's pre-agreed. It's going to come straight over to us. There's a set SLA. And that's how we try and make it as easy as we can. And there's a number of different ways you can do that, whether it's from a business card to 50,000 perfect bound booklets.
So just coming up to close up, as we're almost out of time, is I'm going to bring the last question to you, to Lance. A simple one, really. What product do many printers still think that they sell, and what product should they be selling?
We've got to be selling, going the extra mile, better efficiency, sustainable processes, because people are interested in your eco credentials, measurement, and be easy to do business with. You want a customer to go at the end of the job, wow, that was outstanding service.
Yeah. So thanks very much all, and good, all the best for the rest of your day. And if you've got any questions for any of the panelists, please do get in contact with me. You can just email me on Brendan, BRENDAN, @ipa.org.uk, and I will put you in touch.